In 1974, every single person on this island vanished in a single day. Not because of war, not because of disaster, because something far darker forced them to leave and never return. This is Hashima Island, and what happened here will haunt you. 15 kilometers off the coast of Nagasaki, Japan, sits a shadow on the water. From a distance, it looks like a warship frozen in time. Up close, it's something far more disturbing. Crumbling concrete towers, empty streets, windows like hollow eyes staring back at you. This place was once home to over 5,000 people. Now, it's a graveyard of secrets the world tried to forget. Hashima Island earned its nickname Gunkanjima, which means Battleship Island, because of its shape. But there was nothing noble about what happened here. In 1887, a company called Mitsubishi discovered something beneath this tiny rock. Coal. Rich, black coal that would fuel Japan's growth. Within decades, they built an entire city on less than 16 acres. Apartment blocks rose 10 stories high. Schools, hospitals, movie theaters, swimming pools. Everything you need for a modern life. By 1959, Hashima became the most crowded place on Earth. 5,259 people crammed into a space smaller than a football field. But here's what they don't tell you. Most of those people didn't choose to be there. Between 1930 and 1945, thousands of Korean and Chinese workers were forced onto this island. They worked in coal mines deep beneath the ocean floor. The heat down there reached 45 degrees. The air was thick with coal dust. Men died from cave-ins, drowning, and exhaustion. Their bodies were never sent home. Some say they were dumped into the ocean. Others whisper they were buried somewhere on the island itself. The conditions were beyond brutal. Workers descended into shafts that went 1,000 meters below sea level. That's deeper than 3 Eiffel Towers stacked on top of each other. The tunnels were so narrow that grown men had to crawl on their bellies to reach the coal seams. Water dripped constantly from the ceiling. The sound of it echoed through the darkness like a countdown to disaster. And disasters happen often. In 1931, a gas explosion killed 23 miners in a single blast. In 1935, flooding trapped 40 workers underground. Only 12 made it out alive. The survivors described hearing the screams of their friends echoing through the flooded tunnels for hours. Rescue teams couldn't reach them in time. When they finally pumped the water out days later, they found bodies wedged into crevices, hands still clawing at the walls. But Mitsubishi didn't stop operations. They couldn't afford to. Japan was preparing for war, and coal was the fuel that would power their military machine. So the mines kept running. The bodies kept piling up, and the workers kept being replaced. Then in 1974, the coal ran out. Mitsubishi announced the mine was closing. Within 3 months, every resident packed their things and left. The Japanese government sealed the island. No visitors, no exceptions. For 35 years, Hashima sat in silence, slowly falling apart. Case closed, right? The island died because the money ran out. But that's not the whole story. Because when UNESCO made Hashima a World Heritage Site in 2015, they opened it for small tours. And that's when people started seeing things. Tourists reported hearing voices in the empty apartment buildings. Footsteps echoing in hallways where no one walked. Shadows moving behind broken windows. Tour guides refused to enter certain areas after dark. One guide said he saw a figure standing on the rooftop of the tallest building. When he looked again, it was gone. But the strangest part? The apartments. When people left in 1974, they abandoned everything. Shoes lined up at doorways. Dishes still on tables. Children's toys scattered across floors. Calendars frozen on April 1974. Clothes hanging in closets as if their owners would return any moment. It's as if 5,000 people simply disappeared midlife. Why didn't they take their belongings? Why did they leave so fast? Former residents have shared their stories over the years, and they're all eerily similar. One woman named Sakamoto Michiko was 8 years old when her family evacuated. She remembers her mother crying as they packed. They were only allowed 2 suitcases per family. Everything else had to stay behind. Her favorite doll, her father's books, the family photos on the wall, all left behind. Michiko said the day they left, the ferry was so crowded that people had to stand shoulder to shoulder on the deck. Nobody looked back at the island. It was as if they were trying to forget it, even as they sailed away. Some former residents say Mitsubishi gave them less than 48 hours to get out. Others say the company paid them to leave without asking questions. But here's what makes it even stranger. Many of the workers had nowhere to go. They'd spent their entire lives on Hashima. Some had been born there, married there, raised children there. The mainland was foreign to them. And yet, they left without protest, without resistance, almost as if they were relieved to escape. Let's talk about what really happened in those mines. During World War II, Japan's military needed coal desperately. Hashima became a labor camp. Korean men, some as young as 12, were shipped to the island in cramped cargo holds. They were promised good wages and decent living conditions. That was a lie. They worked 16-hour shifts in tunnels barely wide enough to crawl through. Explosions were common. Flooding happened constantly. If you were too slow, too sick, too weak, you were replaced. One survivor, named Lee Chul, described the mines as a living hell beneath the ocean. He said the overseers beat workers who couldn't meet their targets. The beatings were public, done in front of other workers to send a message. Men who tried to escape were thrown into cells with no food or water. Some tried to swim to the mainland and drowned. Their bodies washed up on nearby beaches for weeks. Local fishermen found them tangled in their nets. The Japanese authorities ordered the bodies to be buried quickly. No investigations, no records, just unmarked graves in anonymous locations. But here's the part that chills you to the bone. When the war ended in 1945, Mitsubishi destroyed most of the records. Employee logs, death certificates, medical reports, everything. It's estimated that between 600 and 1,300 forced workers died on Hashima. But no one knows the exact number, because no one counted. Or if they did, those numbers were burned along with everything else. The Korean government has repeatedly asked Japan to acknowledge what happened, to identify the victims, to apologize to their families. But Japan has been reluctant. They argue that the forced labor issue was settled by a treaty signed in 1965, that no further compensation or acknowledgement is needed. But for the families of those who died, that's not enough. They want names. They want graves. They want the world to know that their fathers, brothers, and sons didn't just disappear. They were erased. People who investigate paranormal activity and have visited Hashima describe an overwhelming sense of fear. Some report feeling watched. Others say they've heard screaming coming from the old mine shafts. In 2012, a Japanese film crew spent the night on the island. 3 crew members became violently sick, vomiting, fever, disorientation. One cameraman said he saw a group of children standing in the schoolyard. When he walked toward them, they disappeared. The footage was never shown to the public. The production company claimed technical difficulties corrupted the files, but crew members who were there tell a different story. They say the footage showed things that couldn't be explained, shapes moving in impossible ways, voices speaking in languages no one recognized. Local fishermen avoid the island. They say the waters around Hashima are cursed. Boats that get too close have engine problems. Compasses spin out of control. Fish avoid the area entirely, as if they sense something wrong. One fisherman told a reporter he once saw lights flickering in the apartment buildings late at night. But the island has had no electricity since 1974. He sailed closer to investigate, and his boat's engine died. He drifted there for hours before the current carried him away. He never went near Hashima again. The Japanese government says these stories are just superstition, but they've also made strict rules for visitors. You can only access a tiny section of the island. The rest is forbidden. Officially, it's because the buildings are dangerous and unstable. The concrete is crumbling. The floors are collapsing. One wrong step could send you falling through rotted wood into basements filled with debris. But some people believe it's to hide what's really there. Because the restricted areas include the hospital, the mine entrances, and the administrative buildings. The places where records might still exist. The places where evidence might still be found. When UNESCO gave Hashima its heritage status, Japan agreed to talk about the island's dark past. They promised to create memorials for the forced workers. They promised to educate visitors about what happened. Information centers, plaques, museums. But that never came to pass. Instead, the Japanese government downplayed the suffering. They presented Hashima as a symbol of progress, a monument to Japan's rise from the ashes of war to become an economic powerhouse. The tours focus on the apartments, the community life, the technological achievement of building a city on a rock in the middle of the ocean. The mine deaths get a brief mention. The forced labor barely gets acknowledged at all. South Korea protested. China demanded honesty. UNESCO itself expressed concern that Japan wasn't living up to its promises. But Japan refused to budge. Government officials argued that dwelling on the past would damage relations, that it would tarnish Japan's image, that the victims should be remembered, but not at the expense of national pride. Why? What are they protecting? Some historians think there's more to the story. Old military documents suggest Hashima wasn't just a coal mine. During the war, it may have been used for weapons testing. Rumors exist of chemical experiments, biological research, testing of new explosives in the sealed-off tunnels where failures could be contained. Nothing has been proven, but the island's design raises questions. Why are there so many underground tunnels that lead nowhere? Why are certain buildings sealed with thick concrete, far beyond what would be needed for safety? And why does the Japanese government refuse to let independent researchers examine the island thoroughly? One survivor, named Lee Chul, described the mines as a living hell beneath the ocean. He said the overseers beat workers who couldn't meet their targets. The beatings were public, done in front of other workers to send a message. Men who tried to escape were thrown into cells with no food or water. Some tried to swim to the mainland and drowned. Their bodies washed up on nearby beaches for weeks. Local fishermen found them tangled in their nets. The Japanese authorities ordered the bodies to be buried quickly. No investigations, no records, just unmarked graves in anonymous locations. But here's the part that chills you to the bone. When the war ended in 1945, Mitsubishi destroyed most of the records. Employee logs, death certificates, medical reports, everything. It's estimated that between 600 and 1,300 forced workers died on Hashima. But no one knows the exact number, because no one counted. Or if they did, those numbers were burned along with everything else. The Korean government has repeatedly asked Japan to acknowledge what happened, to identify the victims, to apologize to their families. But Japan has been reluctant. They argue that the forced labor issue was settled by a treaty signed in 1965, that no further compensation or acknowledgement is needed. But for the families of those who died, that's not enough. They want names. They want graves. They want the world to know that their fathers, brothers, and sons didn't just disappear. They were erased. People who investigate paranormal activity and have visited Hashima describe an overwhelming sense of fear. Some report feeling watched. Others say they've heard screaming coming from the old mine shafts. In 2012, a Japanese film crew spent the night on the island. 3 crew members became violently sick, vomiting, fever, disorientation. One cameraman said he saw a group of children standing in the schoolyard. When he walked toward them, they disappeared. The footage was never shown to the public. The production company claimed technical difficulties corrupted the files, but crew members who were there tell a different story. Hashima Island still stands today, for now, but every year, it sinks a little deeper. Every year, the ocean pulls it closer to the end. The concrete crumbles, the steel rusts, the buildings lean further toward collapse. Tourists who visited 10 years ago say the island looks completely different now. Structures that once stood proud have folded in on themselves. Staircases lead to nowhere. Hallways end in empty air. It's as if the island is slowly erasing itself, trying to forget what it was, what it did, what it allowed to happen within its walls. Maybe that's for the best. Or maybe the island wants to be remembered, not for what it was, but for what it took. If you ever find yourself off the coast of Nagasaki, you'll see it. A dark shape on the water. A battleship that never sailed. A city that never truly died. Just waiting there. Always waiting. And here's the thing. Stories like this, the ones that don't want you to know, the ones that make you question everything you thought you understood about history, they're everywhere. Hidden in plain sight. Buried under official narratives and convenient explanations. Waiting for someone curious enough to look. Someone willing to ask uncomfortable questions. Someone like you. Because you made it this far. 13 minutes of darkness, and you didn't look away. You didn't click away when things got heavy. You stayed. You listened. You wanted to know the truth, even when the truth wasn't pretty. And that matters more than you know. Because the moment you start seeing through the official stories, the moment you start noticing what they leave out, what they gloss over, what they bury in footnotes and fine print, that's when you become dangerous to those who prefer the past stays hidden. There are hundreds more stories like Hashima out there. Islands that shouldn't exist, but do. Buildings that hold secrets in their bones. Places where history took a dark turn and nobody wants to talk about it. Each one stranger than the last. Each one revealing something they hoped you'd never find. The only question is, are you ready to keep digging? Because once you start seeing the cracks in the surface, you can't unsee them. Once you hear the whispers of the forgotten, you can't unhear them. And honestly, that's exactly where the real story begins. Not in what they tell you, but in what they don't. Not in the monuments they build, but in the graves they hide. Not in the history books they write, but in the pages they tear out. Hashima is just one island. One story. One warning that the past is never as simple as they make it seem. And if you want to hear more, if you want to keep pulling at these threads and see where they lead, well, you know where to find me. Because stories like these don't tell themselves. They need people willing to listen. People like you. And I'm just getting started.